Welcome to the Investor Coaching Show, a podcast to help you get an insider's view of the financial world and escape common investment traps. We look at the financial news of the day and help you make sense of it so you can relax about money. And here's your host, Paul Winkler.
And a welcome to the Investor Coaching Show, where we talk about that money topic, and I think it's going to be one of those free-flowing hours. Just dragging Michael Sharpnick from the Goodlettsville office on with me. No telling what he's going to say. There's just no telling ever.
Could get wild.
But I think it's going to be good.
That's right.
Yeah, so there he is. Okay, so we were having a conversation, and Michael, it was, I was just talking about, you got Thanksgiving weekend, or, in that period of time when people are spending money on things that, for Christmas, and they're looking at all the sale. I don't know about you, but when I look at the ads online, Black Friday, there's something about it. I just kind of get excited about life. I don't know why.
Interesting.
And is it, going back to when you're a kid and Christmas is coming, or what on earth it is, but there's just this positive. And I know some people, it's just absolutely dread Christmas. It's totally different, approach to it. And it's because, family dysfunction or, whatever. But for me, it's just like, there's a feeling of hopefulness that comes out, and I think, just in terms of, you think about, okay, what am I thankful about? One of the best exercise out there, there's an app that you can get 3 good things. I think it's what it's called. I think it's 3 good things. And your daily habit is to think of 3 things that you're thankful for. And I tell people, don't wait just to Thanksgiving, do it all year long. So, and I think about that there's, and, we're just talking about how so many times what we do is we look for hope in these times, and we look for somebody to tell us, you're going to be great and everything's going to be great. You're going to be super prosperous, and all you have to do is think positive, and you're going to be, everything's going to be awesome. And I think, well, Paul the Apostle said he was okay with being, everything being great or not, not necessarily being. And I made a comment to you in the office about how a lot of times depression is excessive self-focus. We get focused on ourselves and, rather than focused on serving as being served. And it was an old mentor of mine, good grief. This was a long, long time ago. And he would often talk about, seek to serve, not to be served. And he was just like this old school teacher that turned financial guy. And he was an insurance guy. And I was back because that's where I started, the insurance business and selling insurance and then I got into mutual funds and all those type of things. But I always thought, isn't that interesting? That's just so upside down. You think, man, what do I want as a person? I want to be served, not to serve necessarily. But I think he's so right about that.
Absolutely.
Now, you made a comment about somebody you had seen, because we want to get rich, going to get rich, get rich.
Yeah. And you were saying how you were, people are desperate for hope, kind of in relation to that. And I said, I was watching a little docuseries that just came out on Netflix. It's probably pretty popular right now. Twin Flames, Escaping Twin Flames. It's one of those cults.
And I don't see anything. Yeah. I don't. It's like it's funny. I'm one of these people. I got a subscription to Netflix. Never watch it. Yeah. I should be the person that goes and cancels that thing in a heartbeat. I should go through my subscriptions and do it, but I'm too lazy sometimes to do that.
Yeah.
Don't be lazy like me. Do as I do, not as I say, as my dad used to say. But anyway, so it's a popular series on Netflix, and what on earth is it?
Yeah, so it's about this guy, Jeff Ion, I think. And he essentially went and started an online business saying that he could promise people that they would be able to find their true love. and he called it their twin flame. So you have this one.
It's not a dating service.
Not a dating service. No, not like Tinder or something like that. Okay. In that way, it's like a course. It's like a training process. Coaching process. He had different products like that.
So he's coaching people to
find their true love, their twin flame.
Okay.
Yep. And he sells. And then he had some multi-level marketing aspects in there as well, where you could then become a coach and help other people. But you got to pay him, tons and tons of money to be a coach, and he takes a bunch of the money that you make of coaching. And it is just this really, it started off pretty innocent, some of the stuff was like, okay, sure. And then it just continually progressed and just got really weird, really domineering, controlling, abusive, taking advantage of people. Just horrible, horrible situation.
No, was this like by accident, or did he know that it was going to go that direction?
I think he knew. Yeah. His story is pretty interesting. He like went to business school or something, and he tried all these business ideas, and they had like some old social media tweet of his that said like, what if I just started a cult one day, or so it wasn't.
You're kidding me.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah.
So he's actually not going in innocently necessarily.
It doesn't seem like it. He was trying to make money. I mean, it's very clear he was just trying to take advantage of people and make money.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, just really disgusting, honestly.
So basically this guy went in there, studied business, and I could see where people would do that. They go, oh, wow. And because I look at, in companies in general and how they use marketing and how they use media, and they know exactly how to push your buttons.
Right.
And that reminds me of the story of going back to the 1950s. It was literally, 40s, 50s. Yeah. So if you look back to that period in time, and this is so often the period in the year where people get into some serious financial trouble. And this is why I thought this would be an interesting topic. When you just made that comment to me, I thought, oh, this could be really, really interesting. People get in a lot of trouble. And what I find so often with older people, I saw something that was 60% of people live paycheck to paycheck, is what I saw yesterday. Mm-hmm. And the finding that I have come across is that people get into their older age, and the regrets, they look back on life and go, man, I wish I were better with money. And they may say, because like literally they end up dependent on their kids to take care of them, is what I find. And then they go, man, I would just love to be able to have a place here. I would love to be able to, afford the care that I need, because their health starts to decline. And you just ask them, well, what was going on? I mean, back at that point in your life when you spent money on, what did you spend it on? And, invariably it's, I got cars that were nicer than I probably should have gotten. I lived in a house that was maybe better than I should have had. I've heard people say clothes, that they spent too much money on clothes. They spent too much money on decor for their homes. And I try to get them not to beat up on themselves too much, because, quite often what we do, this is really what's going on in their minds, is people want to connect with other people. And they think that they're going to connect through things because people will look at them and go, there's a successful person. There's a person that made it. There's a person that, I want to be like, and I want to spend time with them. You think about, how we're attracted to successful people that have maybe done really, really well in the music business or in sports or in Hollywood or whatever. People, I just want to be around them like there's some kind of an aura to pick up. Right? I mean, you ever thought about that much?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think we look up to those people. Maybe we want their success, and so we then try to put on some sort of front ourselves to say, we have this level of success and we want other people to think that of us.
Well, it's like, guilt by association.
Sure, yeah.
But it's success by association. It's almost like that type of a thing happening. so what happens is that people end up spending themselves into oblivion, just because of the fact that they're just trying to connect with other people. And sometimes what happens is spending is, you hear, shopaholic and, people, retail therapy, those types of things. And it is therapeutic because, maybe they don't have a lot else going on and boredom kicks in. So, go out and shop and do those types of things. But
we talked about hope. I mean, it can create hope. Like this next thing that I'm going to buy, these things are going to.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's something to look forward to, something to be excited about.
Right. Yeah, and so with this person doing this particular kind of occult type of thing, they're hoping that they're going to get something out of it. Mm-hmm. But I think in terms of where you're getting into this point in the year and you start thinking about how much you're going to be spending on things, and you think, maybe I just ought to think of myself, my future self, a little bit more, and what things are going to look like in the future. Mm-hmm. And am I going to be looking back at this with regret? So sometimes what people will do is they'll just wait. It's like, my wife will work, why do you have to have that now? Right. She was great at that, still is, because, sometimes people can, myself, I'm, point fingers, I got 3 pointing back at me, sure. Can be a little bit impulsive. Yeah. And, just waiting and going, what, that thing isn't going to make me happier. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily going to do, what I think it's going to do. So this guy, it's just interesting to me that he set out kind of knowing people's weaknesses. And where I was going with this is I think back to marketing in the 1950s. So you go back to marketing in the 1940s, 1950s, and it hasn't changed a lot. What we do is we get our base desires marketed to. And at the end of World War II, we were spending a ton of money in the war on tanks and airplanes and ships, and we were all coming together. It was a period in time, and I think this is instructive. People were coming together for a common cause. They had a common enemy, so to speak, or a common, there was purpose. And, in coming together and having those, I think back to It's a Wonderful Life, and, they had the tire drives, and they're trying to collect things. They're trying to collect items that were going to be used in the war effort, and you're rationing. And people didn't worry about rationing because they knew what they were doing it for. That there was something that they were doing that for. Now, when that war ended, what ended up happening is companies are sitting there going, okay, what's Act 2? What are we going to make right now? We don't need to make tanks anymore. We don't need to make airplanes anymore. We don't need to make battleships anymore. What are we going to do? We're going to go back to consumer products. Well, you got this thing called the TV, and it's pretty cool. You got radio is actually doing quite well. There was a lot going on there. People hunkering around the radio during the war to listen to what's going on and what's the latest update about what is happening and how we're doing. We got to capitalize this. We got refrigerators. We got, stoves. We got a lot of things that we need to produce. And you know what? We got this baby boom that is just getting started, because the fellows are back from the war. And now we need to market. We need to create a desire on how your life is going to be better. And then what happens is that we study psychology, and they were studying psychology of people and what makes them tick in order to sell them more things, mm-hmm. Right? And then what happens is that people start buying and the economy goes gangbusters. I mean, it's almost like post-COVID. Yeah, think about it. When people are coming out of COVID, they're thinking, whoa, man, that was a rough period of time we just went through. Now I want to go to concerts. I want to, do all the things. And I think back, and I wasn't around at that point in time, post-World War II, but you got to think that the same thing was happening in people's minds.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And it's interesting that you said that they were able to ration because they had that goal in mm-hmm. mind, like this collective goal. We're going to make it through the war. Mm-hmm. We were talking about, you have all these marketing messages bombarding us constantly, and there's this pressure to spend and to be more, right? And it's almost like I was just thinking, what is it that we have that we're thinking that we're, that ration mindset, like what is it that we have that can drive us the goal in the future to maybe tighten up a little bit? Like what do we have that's balancing all of these marketing messages that we're being bombarded with? That's hard for people to, we talked about thinking of your future self as a stranger, right? It's hard to put off those things and finding little things that you can say, okay, this is what I want in the future, so I can tighten up, now a little bit.
What are we fighting collectively right now?
Right.
And I think it's, it's not necessarily we need to ration rubber or need to ration metal right now, but I think it's a point worth thinking about, in that what we're doing right now is we're thinking in terms of, we're looking at, some people will look at it and say, there's a decay going on in society, and now we need to actually come together because we've been hiding from each other for so long. And I think that's the thing that we are starting to recognize, is that hiding from each other, getting on social media, getting on our phones and turning on TV. I was talking to somebody the other day and I made the comment, I said, so you're just overwhelmed? And she goes, yeah, and I said, what, and it reminds me back to an interview I did a little while back, and was talking to, and talking to this therapist, and I said, so what do you think people ought to be doing? She says, put the phone away. Get the phone away. And she had this exercise. I called it the Saturday exercise. You're going to put the phone away. The phone doesn't work. The phone's broken. The internet's down. Your cellular service is down. The TV's not working today. Nothing's working. What are you doing? And, I've had this conversation with so many people, and just to see what they say. And so often the answer is, oh my God, I'd go, and I had one kid, just one young kid. Well, I'd go play my video game. And I said, no, it's broken. It's broken. What are you going to do? And he goes, oh, yeah, that's right. You did say that. I don't know. And we've lost track of that to some extent. But 9 times out of 10, Michael, what I find that people come back with is something that doesn't cost anything. I'm going to go out to the park. I'm going to take a walk. I'm going to go ride my bike. I'm going to go hiking. I'm going to go, during the summer, I'm going to go canoeing, or I'm going to go do that, or I'm going to go visit a friend of mine down in the nursing home, or, they talk about something that absolutely costs zero. And then they recognize, when you bring them through that exercise, that the reason they were getting on the video game, the kids, the reason they were picking up the phone, the reason they were going on Facebook, the reason they were going into, and watching TV, for example, is they didn't know who to talk to. And it's like, well, there are some artificial people on the other side of a piece of glass that I can feel like I'm connected to in some way.
Sure.
And to me, that is really the thing that we fight against right now. That's the common enemy, is that disconnection. Yeah.
And I think if anything good has come out of, COVID recently, and a lot of these things we've been through in the very recent time, I think people are more aware than ever of the need for connection. Maybe maybe the struggle is how do we connect? And that's kind of where a lot of the disconnect comes from. But I see that people see the need for real connection with others.
And if you want a good book about this, there was somebody who recommended this book to me over at Trevecca. She made a comment because I was talking about picking on computer dating. She goes, no, Paul, it can be a thing. It can be a thing. I said, okay, I'll keep an open mind. But there was a guy that had written a book. It was called How to Find a Date Worth Keeping. And it was really, really interesting. It covers, the computer dating is a little part of it.
This one wasn't a cult, right?
This was not a cult.
Okay.
This is actually really good. And this guy was a dating coach, and it was really eye-opening. So it was literally all of the things that he would coach people through in the process. of getting them inside a relationship in like 6 months. I mean, that was his deal. I can get you in a relationship in 6 months. It's like guaranteed. But maybe somewhat. But it's up to you a lot. It's like ideas are a dime a dozen, but the people that actually will do them are priceless, right? But it was really good. But that's so fascinating what people will do, and they will spend so much money. I think it's pertinent to talk about on a show about money. Thanks for tuning in to the Investor Coaching Podcast. Now, you may be one of these people that's been listening and realizing, wow, investing, there's a lot more to it than meets the eye, and financial planning, tax laws constantly changing, and recognizing that maybe you might need some help in this area, but you don't want just anybody to help you out. So we have 10 offices in the Middle Tennessee area, and everything that we do is fee only. We align our interests with your interests. So you can get an initial 15-minute phone call with any one of our offices just by going to paulwinkler.com/call. That's it. Every one of the offices is run by somebody with 20 plus years experience. They're all degreed planners. They all have academic backgrounds in investing, and you can get the help that you need. So if you want to set up a complimentary phone consultation, just go to paulwinkler.com/call. And we look forward to seeing you soon. What happens to credit card debt after you die? My mother's IRA will be used to pay off her personal loans. And apparently she had a handful of credit cards, had an IRA, and wondering what happens in that particular instance. Michael?
Well, generally, it's going to be the responsibility of the estate to pay those out, and you have to notify the creditors. You have a period of time. But Scott in here was saying that he had a situation where maybe he didn't have to pay some of that back.
The credit card-based company said, you can pay it if you want to, but he ended up paying it because he felt like it needed to be paid.
Sure.
But they gave him the option. That was really interesting. Now, in this particular case, you got an IRA. And with an IRA, you think about it, what happens with an IRA, this is one of the good reasons to make sure you got your beneficiary designations on your IRAs. If your estate is your beneficiary for your IRA, now it's part of your estate, and then those assets will have to be used in most cases, unless you have a weird situation like that, like what Michael is just talking about. It'll have to be used to pay off the debts of the estate, whereas technically it bypasses the probate process if you're actually setting this thing up and have a beneficiary for your IRA. So, and one of the things he made a comment about in this article, he says, doesn't mean that creditors won't try. He said, generally, debts are paid out of the estate, it says, but, technically what you ought to do is get a hold of any creditors, let them know. But if you're not responsible for the debt collectors may still contact you. They may try to give it a shot. However, state law may require a surviving spouse to pay a particular type of debt, require that the executor administrator of the estate pay debt jointly by a surviving spouse. So if you have an IRA and the spouse is a beneficiary, that could be a different deal. If a retirement account has a beneficiary who's living, that account will not go through probate. It's going to pass through that, as I was saying. But it's actually illegal for them to go after your assets. It's probably a question that I've gotten from time to time is, well, what, if my mom had debt and she had no assets, do I have to pay for it? No.
Right.
Unless you're a joint creditor on there.
Right. It's just her estate that's responsible for it. And if there's nothing in there, then...
Yeah.
And like you said, it also varies by state. So it's something to watch out for.
This is why it's good to have an attorney. People ask me all the time about, setting up wills and estates and trusts and things like that. And what do you do? And I like attorneys that specialize in that and working with them in regards to these things. Hey, this is Paul Winkler. Hope you enjoyed today's edition of the Investor Coaching Show. You want to learn more about what we do, go to our website, paulwinkler.com. You can watch some of the videos there, and if you're not already a client, you can set up a free initial consultation. Until next time, I'm Paul Winkler, reminding you that I believe that more educated investors are more confident investors, and confident investors are more successful investors. Have a great one. Advisory services offered through Paul Winkler Inc., an SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions voiced and information provided in this material are for general informational purposes only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine what investments are appropriate for you, please consult with a financial advisor. Paul Winkler Inc. does not provide tax or legal advice. Please consult your tax or legal advisor regarding your particular situation.